gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey everybody, this is BLAQUE. It meets you where you are and gives you exactly what you asked for. Tonight, we are diving deep into the world of storytelling, empowerment, and youth creativity. I am more than honored to welcome a phenomenal woman, a visionary leader, and the founder of Youth Writers Rock. And that's none other than Patricia Harris. Youth Writers Rock is transforming the lives of young people by giving them the tools, confidence, and opportunity to tell their stories, publish their books, and stand proudly in their voices. So lean in, relax, and get ready. Tonight's conversation is going to inspire, empower, and shift your perspective on what our children are capable of when they are seen, supported, and given access. But first, I have something special for you tonight, and I'm so happy to get this. Basic Black After Dark presents the Aretha Franklin Tribute Ticket Giveaway. That's right, you heard me. The Aretha Franklin Tribute Ticket Giveaway. You can win free tickets to the powerful tribute show featuring the incomparable Karen Lynette. She's going to be performing Aretha Franklin's greatest hits at the Gordon Center in Owens Mills, Maryland on December 6th at 7 p.m. And these tickets was donated by Youth Writers Rock founder Pat Harris. So thank you so much, Pat, for donation of these tickets. And I'm going to tell you how you can enter. Listen to the Aretha Franklin trivial question tonight, this episode. You're going to email your answer to basic, BASIC, black, BLAQUE, essentials, ESSENTIALS at gmail.com. And the first correct answer wins the ticket. The winner will be announced on Basic Black After Dark on December the 5th, and that show is at 8 p.m. Okay? So I'm going to repeat this later on because I'm going to give you the trivia question. But right now, we're going to dive into tonight's show. So please join me in welcoming Pat Harris back to Basic Black After Dark. Pat has been on the show several times to share the mission of the Youth Writers Rock. She has even brought in some of her talented youth writers during her past episodes to talk about their creative journeys. And when I say that these youth are talented, they have books out there. They are authors. They are young authors. And I know they have to be proud because I'm proud of them every time I see them. These are young, inspiring authors on the rise. So I want you guys to keep your eyes out for them because they're doing some wonderful things. Welcome, Pat Harris.
Thank you, Black Diamond. Thank you
Thank
for
you, Black
having me.
Diamond. Thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure to be
Always a
on
pleasure to be
After Dark. So
after
Yeah.
keep
dark.
sending those
So
invites because
keep
we're gonna
sending those
put you
invites
up.
because we gonna put you up.
I'm just always excited when you come because I love watching the youth. I love hearing what they're doing. I love learning about the new books. And I love hearing the graduations. You just do everything for them. You and your team, it's just remarkable. It's so unbelievable. From the birth of these Youth Writers Rock. What is it that sparked the creation of Youth Writers Rock?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really appreciate the
I really
platforms
appreciate the
that you provide for me and
platform
for
for
the
me,
young authors. I
authors.
think when they get on
When they get on
the show, this
the
is their
show,
first
this is their
experience of actually
experience
doing
of
a live
actually
interview
a
um,
live
about
interview
their book. They took
about
uh,
their book.
maybe a total of 8 months to really get that book written, to get it published, to get the illustration done on that book. And they put a lot of time and commitment into that book. So I think when they get the opportunity to actually talk about their experience and talk about, the subject of their book, it really just gives them a lot of confidence, right? And it gives them that opportunity to say, hey, I did an interview on Basic Black show, and it really, every time after we do a show, the parents actually call me and be like, thank you so much for that opportunity. So we couldn't do that without you. And so I just wanted to say thank you. And we appreciate this platform that you provide, not just for us, but for other authors and for providers, just for everyone. You just provide that platform for us. And so I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity tonight. But for those who may not know, again, my name is Patricia Harris. I am the founder of Youth Writers Challenge, which is a 501c3 organization where we provide a platform for inner city youth to creatively express their thoughts and ideas. And under the Youth Writers Challenge umbrella, we created a writing program called Youth Writers Rock. And so with Youth Writers Challenge, we actually challenge the students. We go to different venues like malls or book events or fashion shows and things like that. And we will actually have the students all come out and perform, whether they're writing poetry or they're dancing, they're singing, or they're rapping. We allow them that platform to be creative. And out of doing Youth Writers Challenge, we noticed that there were a lot of great writers. Even song singers are writers, right? They got to write their lyrics. Even rappers are writers, right? They got to write the lyrics to their songs. And so we really wanted to tap more into that writing creativity. And so we started Youth Writers Rock in 2017. And it has just flourished since then. We have to date 19 authors that have graduated the program that are now published authors. Their books can be found on any book site. So we're talking Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, some of the greetings and reading sites. Their books are in the Library of Congress. And their books are in Baltimore County and Baltimore City public libraries. And we actually have 2 books in PG County libraries. So we're working towards getting more of their books in out in the libraries in Ellicott City, some of the libraries in Laurel, and some of more of the books in the libraries in PG County, right? So we're really trying to spread the word, or to just make sure the books are available for students that are in the school systems to kind of pick up this book, turn to the back of the book and see that, someone their own age wrote this book. And if they can do it, they can do it as well. If I see a young person's face on the back of a book, then I'm going to be more encouraged to say, hey, if they could do it, I could do it as well. So we're really trying to make sure all of the books are in the libraries, so all of the students have access to reading those books that the Youth Writers Rock students are writing. So that's what we do. We have coaches that are authors themselves. They're editors, they are teachers, and they are business professionals. So they've actually walk that line of starting from the very beginning of the concept of writing the book all the way to the end of completing the book and sending the book off to the publisher. So the students that participate in Youth Writers Rock commits to a 6-month program that we meet on Saturdays, and to kind of see all of them go all the way through that process until their book is done is just fascinating. And we enjoy and love every minute of it. Me, the coaches, the parents, they come from session to session and just kind of sit in. But it's really a great bonding group that we have when we do our sessions, and the students leave knowing, and meeting new friends that they didn't have when they first walked into the session. So they really stay connected to one another even after the session is over. So I appreciate that bonding aspect of the program as well.
So Pat, how did the early vision differ from what the program has grown into today?
Um, I,
Um,
I really
I,
thought it was just going
I
to,
really thought it was going to
they come to the session
they come to the session.
and we write the book, and then they, at the end of it, I didn't really think so far out of it. But now when we're doing these sessions, we're thinking beyond the book, right? We're thinking, how do we turn this book into a short film, or how do we turn this book into a play? How do we use these students to actually do the illustration themselves. How do we use the students to do the music to go along with the book, or to go along with the playwright, or to go along with the short film. So now we're actually looking at the book, but also what else can we do with that book? Like, in terms of, we don't want them to just be authors. We want them to be playwrights. We want them to be screenwrites. We want them to be directors. We want them to be the illustrators. We want them to come up with the stage plot of the play, and things like that. So we're looking a little beyond the book at this point, right? The book is kind of the starting point, right? So I think what a lot of authors don't realize is that, once you write a book, you really then become a business person, right? Your book is your business, right? You have a product now, right? So you go to different events and you sell your product, right? So we in the sessions, we teach them about being a business person, right? We go through how to sell a book, how to approach a person, or when they approach you about your book, how do you present yourself to them? How in the quick 30 or 60 seconds do you grab their attention and get excited about wanting to read more about your book? We teach them that, but now we just want to tag something onto their names besides author. We also want to say that they're either an actor or an actress or playwright or a screenwriter. And so my vision for it is still creating authors, right? Because that's a legacy, right? That's something that will always be with them. Once you're an author, you're going to always be an author. Your book is going to always be out there, right? That's the one thing that never dies and never goes away, is a book, right? Whether it's hard copy or online, it's going to always be out there. And so they will always forever be an author, and that's something no one can take from them. But then
But then
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm hoping that they understand that they're always going to be an author. They can't get away from that. What I wanted to know about them was, what changes do you see in students once they realize their voices matter? Because I don't think some of them actually. I wrote this book. It's not just me sitting with a bunch of people on a Saturday and we're just writing something. I am a published author. I've seen some of your youth at the graduations and at their events, and I'm looking at them and I'm marveling at them. I'm just looking at this grin on their face. But what I see more than the grin on their face is the grin on the parents' face.
Yeah.
That they were there to support their children through this journey. And sometimes it's not easy.
Right.
But I give kudos to the parents for encouraging their children to stick with it and to stay with it. And that's just so important for them to be a part of. So how do you realize and what you see in your students that their voice matters?
I think, like you said, in the beginning of going through the process of writing the book, I think they're having more fun of it, right? They're not realizing what the end result is going to be, once that book is actually published. I don't think they get the gist of it, right? But they're enjoying the process of being creative, right? And coming up with the characters of the stories, and the line, the details of the stories, and who's going to be the main character, or the good guy, and who's going to be the bad guy in the story. They get excited about that, and I think at that point they're not really thinking about, all right, what happens once this book is published. But at the graduation, I think, because we make it so that that's the first time they see their book in their hand, because we want them excited when they're on that stage, when they're walking across the stage. We kind of want them so excited that they want to just get back to grabbing onto their book, and but once they actually see the book and they see their photo on the back of the book and they see their names on the front of the book, I think it's when it really hits them, like, I wrote this book, like I published a book. That's me. And I think from that point on, because we immediately start to try and do book events right after, right? We don't want to lose the momentum, right? They're excited about their new book. We don't want to lose the momentum. So we start immediately right at the graduation doing a book signing, so they can kind of get that feel of being like, oh, this is about me today, like I'm the author today. And then we schedule some other events where they can do the same thing, do some book signings and do some public speaking. And I think once um, they realize that they are an author, right? And this is me, this is mine, I did it, I created it. They start to be even more confident, right? They start to feel a lot more excited about their accomplishment and what they did. They just wasn't in this room for 6 months, but this they are actually they have created something that no one else has created, right? Their book is their book, right? And you start to see the confidence come out in them. You start to see that they're proud of themselves, right? Their parents are very proud of them, but they are proud of themselves and what they've created and what they've done. And you can see that in them when they start to talk about their book. And it's always, I did this, I wrote this, I'm an author. They take ownership of it. And they take that back to their friends and families. They take it back to the other students in their classrooms and their teachers. They just become a more confident person, knowing that they accomplished something that many of us still have not been able to do yet. As adults, many of us say, oh yeah, I'm going to write this book. I started it, but I didn't finish it. I got to get back to it. But they actually committed 6 months and got their book done. And so I think that makes me
I
very
think that
proud.
makes me very proud.
You should be. You mentioned representation. When the youth writers place a strong focus on representation, how do students respond when they see other authors who look like them?
I think when they
I
see
think
other authors that look like them, they get more excited because I think they feel a bond, right? Even though they may not personally know them, they still feel a connection and a bond because they know that they've gone down that same path that this other author's gone down. So during our sessions, we'll bring some of the authors back that have graduated previous Youth Writers Rock sessions. We'll bring them back and kind of let them speak about their experience and what it's been like for them. And after they've finished speaking, just to see the new authors connecting with that person, with that author, it's really encouraging to say they're really trying to get more information from them. They really want to see how their book relates to their book. And I think even in some of the book events that we do, we did AFRAM this year, the African American Heritage.
the African American heritage.
And they actually started going to some of the tables where there were authors at and talking to them and kind of talking to them about their book and asking for more information about the book that author has written. So it's kind of, I think, opened them up a little more, to wanting to know more about other authors' experience of writing a book, and how long it took them to write the book, and what resources they use for their book. So it's definitely broadening their range of reading, or different types of ways of becoming an author or writing a book and different things like that. And again, it really just kind of makes them a little more confident in what they've done, and they're more open to talking about what it is that they've done and experience
That
that
they've
they've
done and
had
experience that
creating
they've
this
had
book. And they
this
love
book.
sharing that with other
They love
people.
sharing that with other people.
One of the things you had mentioned when they went to AFRAM, there's also a Baltimore Book Festival dedicated to children as well, for children authors. So you may want to look into that for next year, as well
Okay.
as Education Week. They have them in the schools, Education Week. And sometimes you may get a student that may belong to that school that's doing Education Week, and they can do some, just get in contact with the principal, and maybe that youth can bring their books and sell them to, some of the students that's there. And that, just being a student of the school and you wrote the book, that's just overwhelming for that student to share with its cohorts, that and its peers. I've written this book and I'm right here in your school. So
Right.
try to reach out to the schools
Right.
as well, because I think that happens around November that they do
Oh,
that. But the
Oh,
Baltimore Book Festival, I believe that's in, I think it's August. I think it's the early part of August that the book festival is in. So try that because they have a whole section just for them, for the children, um, to do their books. They have older authors too, but they're definitely doing children's books in that area. So I think that might be something that would be good. What
Well, thank you
barriers
for
still
sharing
exist?
that.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
We're
Oh,
always
please, girl,
open
you know
to
I'm gonna
We're open to
getting more of that
any
type of
getting more of
resources.
that type of
So definitely
so
look
definitely
up those two. Well, especially the Baltimore Book Festival. I can definitely look up that information. But the parents actually have been reaching out to the student schools, and a couple of them were successful at actually, the principal allowing the student to come in, usually during lunch break or right at their library time, just kind of allowing the students to talk to the other students about their book and bringing copies of their book as well. So we I absolutely love that, and always let the students know that I'm available to come be a support for them whenever they want to do that in the school system. But thank you, Black Diamond, for that
But thank
information.
you,
We're
Black Diamond, for that
definitely going
information.
to look
We're
into the Baltimore Book
definitely going to
Festival
look into the
because
Baltimore
they enjoy
because
these
they
festivals.
enjoy these
Yeah,
festivals.
well, let them also try the Reginald F. Lewis Museum because they have a Children's Day there as well. So you might want to try that with them, and it's very popular. They definitely encourage the youth to come or anybody that's a children's author. But
Author.
I think that they would do wonderful for people to see that these are children that's
Yeah.
doing that, and I believe they put their names and their pictures up, so it'll definitely bring some people out. So you may want to try some of those places as well. Even the places that we go to as adults, find out if they have an area for children authors, children book authors. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're children, but they could have written a children's book. And what you have, they've written children's books. So I would definitely go and just put it in there. Don't think it's just for the adults. The writing process for young authors. Could you walk us through the writing journey from ideas to published book for a child in your program?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
When we first
absolutely.
started the program, um,
Program.
we try and get to know a little more about the students in the program, and try and get to know them so that and allow them to get to know one another before we jump right into writing the book. So we'll have a couple of sessions of just, icebreakers and bonding, and getting them a little comfortable. A lot of them are nervous when they come in. Again, a lot of them don't know each other, right? So you're in a session with maybe 10 students and you're not familiar with them. So we do take the first couple of sessions to just kind of get them a little more relaxed and get them, so that they can learn a little bit about one another. And our icebreakers allows us to do that and allows them to kind of ask each other questions and get to know one another. But once we start that journey, of trying to just kind of get from them what they love to read, what they like to watch on TV, what movies were they interested in, so we're kind of pulling some of that information out from them, one at a time. What was your favorite movie? Why was it your favorite movie? What did you like most about that movie? If you liked um Black Panther. What was it about Black Panther? Was it the costumes? Was it the characters in there? Different things like that. So we'll kind of first pull from them what was most exciting for them. Again, whether reading a book or watching something on TV or watching a movie. And then once we've kind of gotten all of that information down on the board, right? They're just throwing content out at us, and we're on a board writing that stuff down, right? Just kind of getting as much information as we can from them. And then we start asking them, what do you think would be, you know, a good movie to go to the theater and watch? Would it be this, and that? And so they actually have to go through a process of narrowing down what their book is going to be about. They might start out at like maybe 10 ideas, and then we have to narrow that down to 5 ideas, and then they have to vote and come up with the concept of their book. And like the last class we did, which was very surprising to me, which really shouldn't have been, was that they all wanted to do something about social media, right? They all kind of agreed, when they were voting on their book type topic, the majority of them said, we want to talk about influencers or social media, and so when we put it all out there, just based on what they say, and they like to read, they like to see on TV, what shows they love, what movies they like, they actually decide what the concept of the book is going to be about by a
about
voting
by
system.
a voting
Yeah.
system. Yeah.
So
So
you have
that's
them.
kind
So
of how we
that's
start
kind of
that out.
how
And from
start that.
there, we go into the pillars of how to write a book, your characters, you gotta have some good characters, but you gotta have that one character that's not so good, to make the book really interesting. And so once we can get the concept of the book, then we can start to develop the story. And so that part sometimes take a couple of sessions before we can even narrow it down to what the topic of the book is going to be about. But that's usually
About.
how
But
we
that's
start
usually how we start
that process of
that process of
um,
um,
deciding the book, the topic
deciding
of
the
the book.
book, the topic.
You have them going from, in the beginning you mentioned about marketing with them, and how to present themselves and represent themselves, and then the networking. I would just love to see these little people walking around networking with other authors, whether they're adults or whether they're other children, because just to watch them go from table to table and
Mm-hmm.
ask questions and share their
Mm-hmm.
information. My thing is that when they're doing all of this, what surprises process for their children. Because I know they have to be beaming and standing back proud watching their little people running around and doing all of this. Is there a change that they tell you that they see within their child, even in their child's schoolwork? Because that's important.
Yeah, I mean the parents, and I always let them know, like, please share anything with me, the good, the bad, or whatever. But once they've gotten their book, and they're around friends and family and they're telling them about their book, please share with me, how they're doing with that. And just the parents sending me emails, or even just calling me and just letting me know that they've received phone calls and emails from the teachers saying that, there's definitely a difference. Like, they didn't know what really was going on. They really wasn't informed that they were writing a book, but they noticed that they're participating more in class, right? They're raising their hands, they're thinking a little more outside of the box, right? Because they're tapping into being a little creative, right? And being a little more descriptive about things. So now they're participating a little more in class. And what they're also doing is they're open to working more with their classmates, and they get that from collaborating with the other students when they are writing their books. Their characters might be different, but they have to collaborate because there will be some dialogue exchange between their characters, right? So there were a lot of one-on-one with the students, just kind of working through their chapter together, and
Through their
they
chapter
brought
together, and it
that sense of
brought that sense of
connecting with the other students
connecting
back to
with the
their
other students.
classroom, and their teachers recognized that, and really reached out to the parents to say, this is absolutely great, I love it. And then the parents will share that information with me, so but like you said,
So
seeing these students at these tables when people are approaching them, just the confidence of them standing up and saying, hi, my name is Dylan, and I'm an author, I wrote this book, would it be okay if I tell you a little more about it, right? Just seeing them doing that exchange, with these people that are standing in front of their tables, it makes me very proud, right? They've come up with their own script, that works for them to kind of sell that book. And it's just really encouraging that what we doing is working, right? Like, um
like
we're not on
um
TV, we're not getting all the praise, and we don't want that, right? Because this is way bigger than me or my husband. But it just makes me so proud to kind of just see them in that interaction with someone, and feeling confident about what they're trying to sell is amazing to me. And it's just kind of like every time I see that, I'm like, man, this is great.
man, this is great.
You mentioned collaboration, the power of community and collaboration. Youth Writers Challenge is more than a program. it's a community. What makes the community element so important? And who are some of the key partners or supporters who have helped elevate your mission?
Community is everything.
Community is every
It with these
it
students going
with
from
these
one
students.
grade to another grade, and some moving from one school, maybe middle school to high school, or elementary school to middle school, they're going to come across different students, right? Different personalities and different things like that. And they'll just need to know how to move in this different atmosphere. And being able to have speakers come in and talk to them about that, being able to take them out to different events, they can actually engage with different people and learn how to connect with that person. You know, one person might be easier to speak with, one person might not be, but if you talk to them and ask them the right questions, they'll open up to you a little bit more. And so when we're at these events and we're at these festivals, or we have speakers, they start to learn a little bit about communicating with a person and figuring out what's the best way to communicate with this person that is standing in front of me, right?
Standing in front
So
of me, right? So
having
um,
Charm City Jazz, which is one of our biggest supporters and sponsors, um, Roger Harris, he will come out and talk to the kids on a business level, right? A little bit about the business. We might have the editor come out and talk a little bit more on from that aspect of now that you've written the book, right? This is what we have to do to make the book in, where you can hold a book and publish the book. And so they talk a little bit about it from that perspective, but we try and bring different professionals to come in and talk to these students so that they'll learn a little more about who in the community is a part of them branding this book, or creating this book, and whether it's the publisher, the marketing, or the promoter, the library, they all can they get a little sense of everybody that's a part of what they're trying to brand and what they're trying to build. And so we have a lot of different people coming in to speak with the students so that they can get
that
a little bit from each one
a
of
little
these
bit from
professionals that
a
are their community. As an author,
community
they're all going to be a part
author,
of
they're
making
all
it
going to be a
successful.
part of making it successful.
Are there any specific social emotional learning themes that emerge often in your students' stories?
Um, Absolutely. Like I said, the
Absolutely.
students
Like I
come
said,
up with the concept of their book, and I think at any given time, we don't know really what they're going through at home, right? We don't know um, emotionally all the time what they're feeling, but when they start throwing these ideas out about this book, we can kind of get a grasp of, okay, they want to talk about bullying. Let's talk a little more about that. Is this something you've experienced before? Is this something you've witnessed before? The Not the last book, but the book before that, the book was called Mixed Paths. And there were two stories, two friends going through two different challenges in their home. One was not having a good relationship with her mother. It wasn't the daughter mother relationship that she wanted to have. She felt like she was not loved enough, right? And then the other side of the story was a young man who felt like, his mom passed away, his dad was locked up, his grandma is sick, and he's feeling like he's in a bad place, and he doesn't want to get in trouble, and he doesn't want to, be a part of a gang, and he feel like he needs to get away. So sometimes these stories really evolve around what's happening in these students' life. And again, we give them the platform to talk about it. And then we help to kind of put that into a book. And it really allows them to open up and then talk to other people about what they're feeling or what they're experiencing or what they're going through. So definitely, the book sometimes can be a topic of what they're actually going through in their personal lives. And we then talk through that with them, and then talk with the parents about that, and then try and provide any resources we can to help them with
we
that.
can help them with that.
Can you share one or two transformative success stories from your program?
Um, well,
Um,
like I said, the bullying
well,
one,
like I said,
one of the
bullying
gentlemen
one, one of the
in the
gentlemen
program,
in the program
there was four students. Three of the four students had been bullied before. The fourth student was a bully, and from what he explained to us. But when they each shared their stories and talked about what that was like for them, how that made them feel, um, he didn't apologize to them, even though they were not in the same schools, they didn't live in the same areas. But he apologized to them because he was like, I just didn't think about that. I didn't know how that was making um, those kids feel when I was doing that. All I thought that it was cool, because the other guys was doing it. And so he apologized to them, even though he didn't directly have any impact on them. He just felt bad that um, he didn't think about their feelings. And so I think when we come up with the topic of the book and we have these discussions, especially around those topics that can deal with, mental illness or um, the impacts of feeling, lost or not loved, or any of that. Once we have those conversations around that, it allows them to feel more open to kind of really telling what was on their mind or what they were feeling. They don't feel like they got to hide anything. We give them the floor to just be open and honest, and let them know that we're there for them. So having him stand there and say, I'm apologizing to you, and to you, because I didn't know how, you guys were feeling. I didn't know, how they were feeling, and I didn't mean to kind of make them feel that way. That I think was significant to allowing the other three to talk even more about what they was feeling, and that they would come home and not want to even tell their parents what were happening. They would just go to their room and close their doors and deal with it themselves. But now they're actually talking about it on a platform where other people are listening. They're giving advice to parents on, if your child is doing this, you might want to talk to them because they might be hiding something from you. So after that, we decided to go on different panels, and the students were really just kind of giving everyone in the audience those clues that they should be looking for, or if their child is
or
being bullied,
if they
and they just feel like nobody's going to listen to them or believe them. And it was really interesting to see so many adults raise their hands and ask these four students that were on this panel of ways to figure out, signs, basically. If I see signs, what should I do, from this perspective of the students. So there's definitely been some experiences that I've seen coming out of these sessions, and that the students have experienced coming out of these sessions, that relate to their everyday lives.
Libraries. You can't even keep it in there because it's always going out. When you go in there to ask for the book is gone. And then you got to go on a wait list. So I wanted to let you know that
That's good. That's a good thing.
good,
in
that's a good thing.
circulation. So I went back again to ask for the book, and it wasn't there. So I said, "What do you mean it's not here? You don't carry it?" They said, "No, somebody took it out." So I was very happy and pleased to see that the book is going on. You mentioned something that I want to talk about. What would you say to a child who is afraid that the story that they're writing isn't good enough? How would you encourage them to keep going and to keep writing?
Um, I would just kind of one ask them why they think it's not good enough, right? Just to try and understand their mindset or their thought about their book. But what we do throughout the whole process, because as they're creating the book, as they're writing kind of what they think this character should be saying to that character, they're sharing it with the other students in the class, right? So everybody's kind of sharing a little bit about their character, and depending on what chapter we're in, they're going around a room, almost like a table reading, if you will. And the other students are kind of saying, man, that was great, right? They're getting validations from their co-authors that are sitting there at the table with them. And I think that kind of gives them, the good feeling of, all right, I'm writing good, I'm doing good. Because sometimes I love the kids, but sometimes they are very honest, right? And they're very blunt. So if they don't like something, they're going to tell you they don't like it, right? But I think getting that validation from their peer helps them to say, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm going to keep on going. And even if we, get to a particular part of the chapter or of the book, and we will give some suggestions. Hey, how about he say it this way? Or how about we switch this word with that word? So we always kind of get their input. We'll ask them, like, what do you think about this? We don't just go in and make any changes without them knowing what we think we should kind of add or take out, but explaining it to them why this would kind of sound better when reading the book, if we do it this way. But I don't think we really allow it to get to the point where they're ending the book feeling like, oh, this wasn't good. Because throughout the whole process, we're engaging them in it, and we're saying, this is great. What do you think about this? What else would you like to add to it? They're in the process every step of the way. And I think before the book is actually done, they read it from beginning to end. And then if it's something that they don't, really understand or don't agree with, we do have the option to go back and change it. But because we're getting their input in every step of the way and asking them, what do you think? How do you feel about it? We're really trying to eliminate getting to the end of the book and ready to send it off to the publisher, and someone's feeling like, I don't think this is a good book, but we have those roundtables with the other students so that they could feed off of one another, and they could give suggestions to one another, and they can ask questions to one another.
Um, have you ever thought about having the students sit in on um, a podcast where their book was reviewed and someone is talking to them about the book?
That is a great
That is a
idea, and we
great
have
idea, and we have
Because I have
anyone that
someone
would
to
be
for
able.
you.
anyone that would.
I do. And she's on here tonight. You know I was going to have something for you. Her name is Patrice Grimble. She is here. She's got Hey, Hey, Hey up. She is one of my
Oh,
sisters, and she
Oh,
does reviews. So I was thinking instantly, I was hoping she didn't go off before I mentioned it. But I think that that would be wonderful because she does a wonderful job. She always has these little quirky questions and, about, I'm not going to give it away. I'll let her do it on her own show, but she does that with with her guests. And I would love for her to review a book with your youth and then ask them that question. Hope you understand what question I'm talking about, because it's like a stop. And I think that they would love to answer that question. It would be really exciting for them, and it gets them to say something else. So I'm going to pass your information over to her so she can
please.
contact you to
please.
have it reviewed, because I think that that would be a wonderful thing for her.
I think that they would absolutely enjoy that. I think that they
Enjoy
would
that. I think that they
absolutely
would
love that opportunity
love
to
that
be able to
opportunity to be able
respond
to
to those
respond
questions.
to
Like I
those
said, they're
questions.
confident
Like I said,
now,
they're
right?
confident now, right?
And they love talking about the book. They love talking about the book, and then they even a lot of times go into, yeah, because we're gonna write another book, and I have to be like, wait a minute, uh, but that would be a wonderful opportunity. Please share my information. I would love for them to be able
Would
to do
love for
that.
them to be able to do that.
I most certainly will. I'll send it out this afternoon. You mentioned that you were trying to get into other jurisdictions, expand out of the state as well, your program.
Yes, we've actually been contacted by someone in Delaware, from a book event that they do every year in North Carolina, and in New York. So I have been speaking with them
I
on
have been
ways,
speaking with them on ways.
trying to bring the program there, but definitely having someone that can host it, in that particular state, wherever we are. But it's definitely something that's on top of the radar. Haven't found out all of the details specifically from New York and Delaware. There's been constant contacts with those two states of bringing Youth Writers Rock to those two locations, and so we're still trying to, figure that piece of it out, in terms of a location for the sessions. Would it still be a 6 month program? Because it's starting out, what we need to extend that and make it a little longer than 6 months, just those, logistics basically. But it's something we're working on, and it's definitely, at the very top of our radar. The key thing to any place that we do it at is funding. While the program is free for the students, um, you know, we have to find funding to cover the expenses that go along with that program. We have coaches, we have field trips we have to do. The students have to have t-shirts, backpacks, school writing
T-shirts
supplies,
back.
and then the publishing piece of the book, and all of that requires some funding. So that's another big part of it, that we'll need to find funding in both of those states to have the program move forward.
Well,
To have the program move
they
forward.
have the funding in the schools. The majority of the schools do. Some of them don't even know what to do with the money, so they wind till the end. But I would
Yeah,
look
I
at some of the
recently did a
underserved.
seminar with one of the teachers union, and talked about the program. And a lot of the teachers that were on that seminar actually um, reached out to the teaching union, asking, how can we get that in our school? How can we make this part of the curriculum? So I know that the teachers are asking, the teachers union, um, we need, telling them we need this, what can we do? And so I do know that they are looking into um, ways to fund the program, inside of the school system. And so that was a really great
And
experience
so,
over the summer, that I was invited to talk about the program at a teachers seminar, conference. And um, teachers are really excited about it, and really would like to see that as part of the curriculum in the schools.
Well, New York City has a new mayor, so you may want to hit him up because he's probably going to need something that's going to push him to the top to let people know that he's serious. And when you come to
Mm,
children, who else
mm,
can you go to? And he's definitely being watched by higher ups. So I think
yeah.
some letters going out to him, even if the students are writing letters to him, and they just open some doors for that. How can supporters, partners, or volunteers get involved in the next chapter of the Youth Writers Challenge?
We're always looking
we're
for
always looking
supporters.
for supporters.
Have a lot of social events with the students, right? So it's not just coming to session, we're going to write. We do um, social ice creams. We do pizza parties. Like I said, we have speakers come in. Sometimes we'll stop session early and do a little short movie with the students. We take them on field trips depending on what their book is about. We might take them to a museum, or the students was writing about their hip hop book. We took them to a hip hop museum in DC so they can get some inspiration from that. So we do a lot of activities with these students where we require more than just the coaches to come and support them. So we're always looking for supporters in that aspect of it. um, um, People can always go to Charm City, always go to youthwritersrock.com. There is a donate button at the top of it. You can also purchase the books on youthwritersrock.com. And some people have just really, in wanting these students to succeed with their book, have just kind of sent in donations in support of the book, or supported the program by saying, I'm going to buy backpacks for all your students, so I'm going to provide you with boxes of school supplies for all your students and things like that. So they can actually support the program financially or with donations any way they want to, because like I said, it's a nonprofit, right? We don't have a steady grant. We do a lot of fundraising, so a support on any level would be helpful to the program.
Wow. Pat, thank you so much for blessing us tonight and for the work you continue to do to uplift, empower, and amplify the voices of our youth. Youth Writers Challenge is changing lives one story at a time. We honor you for your dedication, your vision, and your heart. And to my Basic Black After Dark family, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for showing up. And thank you for supporting platforms that celebrate growth, healing, and creativity in our communities. Now, I didn't forget about our trivia question for those tickets to see the performance and tribute to Aretha Franklin. So here's the question: which Aretha Franklin album was the first to win a Grammy Award for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance? Now, the first person that gets it right and correct, of course, will win the tickets. But you must email me at basicblackessentials@gmail.com. That's BASICBLAQUESSENTIALS@gmail.com. The winner will be announced on my December 5th podcast, and the show is on December 6th at 7 o'clock at the Gordon Center here in Owens Mills. So I want to repeat the question again because I had some people that I asked that question and they got it wrong because they wasn't listening to the question. So I'm going to throw this out there again. Which Aretha Franklin album was the first to win a Grammy Award for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance? Again, the first person to get it right and send it to my email, you will be notified that you are the winner and you are to pick your tickets up on call and they'll be ready and available. I want you to tell me how the show was because I love Aretha Franklin, but I had a little accident with my foot, so I ain't be able to make it out there. Um, but again, good luck to everyone. You can also watch this in the replay. If you know somebody that lives in the state of Maryland and you're not in this state, let them know about this trivia question. Maybe they're going to be the lucky one that wins the tickets. He almost gave the answer away right now with what I had to say next, so I got to just say something different. So make sure you join us for our next episode. That one is also going to be in December the 19th. Now, the December the 5th, we have something going on, but December the 19th, we're going to welcome the Distinguished Authors Guild Award winners. You already know it's going to be powerful, it's going to be
Mm.
inspiring, and it's going to be a night you don't want to miss. Until then, stay real, stay silent, and stay beautifully, authentically you. This is Black Diamond, and you've been listening to Basic Black After Dark. I want to thank you for keeping it basic. Good night. Pat, your students should enter the Distinguished Authors Guild Award winners because there's children that enters that as well. So I can send you the
Okay.
information for that as well because they'll be I'm going to be interviewing those winners in about 3 weeks on the 19th. So we'll be sharing some information, and the owner and founder of it, I'm going to be interviewing her as well when they start going back and accepting applications. So collaborations are welcomed as well as individual authors. But I think that some of your children will be happy to travel. Now they would have to probably go to Chicago, but that's a big deal for
That's
some of
okay.
them. And yeah, I think that they would love it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we
and
love
any
a field trip.
adults, yeah, hey, you get a chance to stay over at a hotel. They get a chance to mingle and to network with some older people. And I think that they would have a blast with it as well. And also with my sisters, anybody that wants to enter, we'll be talking about it
And
on
this
the
is the
19th
Black
with more
Writers
information.
Guild.
Black Writers Guild? No, this is the Distinguished Authors Guild. It's called
Distinguished
DAG.
Authors Guild.
Distinguished Authors Guild. Oh, yeah. So anyone can enter that, and I think that they would enjoy it and they would be excited with all the promos that come up. But I'm not going to keep talking about it. I could sit there all night and talk about it. My sisters, you can join as well. and I joined it as well, and I walked away a winner this year, so I'm very happy with that. But I'm going to have to bring
Congratulations.
this on. Thank you
Congratulations.
so much. So again, thank you all for tuning in. Please watch the replay, share it with everyone that you know, especially if you have family
Yes.
that's even close
Yes.
to the DMV area, so they can learn more about the Youth Writers Challenge and Youth Writers Rock program, as well as trying to get these tickets, because I understand the show is going to be, it's going to be a great show.
Be
You
hot.
talk
It's
about
gonna be a great show.
It's
Aretha
gonna be a
Franklin, the
great show.
tribute, hands down, you know it's going to be something. Don't eat before you go, though.
Absolutely.
You eat when you get there. Okay. Good night, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.